Okay, good morning. I have 8 a.m., so we are going to get started with our 2021 League informational meeting. Just before we get started, I just want to welcome everyone and just kind of share as we go through today's meeting. If you would place any questions you have in the chat box. So we'll go through, we'll monitor those. If it's generic questions, place those in the chat box. If it's something specific to your school, regarding a question about your school, if you would just simply contact one of the commissioners following the meeting who is over that part of the question that you may have. And then also as we go through the meeting, there will be an attendance poll that will come up. So you just need to make sure you're looking for that and answering that attendance poll when it does come up. So let's get started. All right. We are going to begin just with our staff and just kind of refreshing everyone with our staff and what everyone covers. So Jerome Singleton is our commissioner. He oversees hardships, catastrophic insurance, eligibility, new school membership, and he is also on the NFHS Strategic Planning Committee. Then we have Charlie Winsky, who is the deputy commissioner. The sports that Charlie oversees is football, basketball, baseball, boys lacrosse, boys and girls soccer. He also oversees closed season rules and regulation, eligibility, NFHS baseball rules committee. He is a member, as well as the NFHS football rules committee. And then Amy Boozer, I'm one of the associate commissioners. I oversee the sports of volleyball, competitive cheer and game day, boys and girls tennis, boys and girls golf, girls lacrosse, softball, eligibility. I oversee transfers, foreign exchange, and I am a member of the NFHS Spirit Rules Committee. And then we have Danny Brooks, who is also an associate commissioner. Danny oversees boys and girls swim, boys and girls cross country, boys and girls track and field, wrestling. Danny is also over ejections. He oversees the Student Athlete Advisory Council, community service, student leadership, the weekly trivia, student of the month, and coaches education. And then we have our director of communications and public relations, Ms. Tammy Newman. Tammy oversees community service and the Living Clean Weeks, media relations. She is in charge of getting out and publishing Tuesday News, the e-bulletins, and the annual report. Social media. She also does the Hall of Fame Spirit of the Sport and Heart of the Arts Award, event photography, and Tammy is a member of the NFHS Spirit of the Sports Awards Committee. And then we have Cindy Drakeford, who is our Director of Finance. Cindy does the financial forms, late fees and fines. She's over sanctioning for invitationals and jamborees and statement of dues. And then we have Ms. Jan Hogan, who is Director of Events, and other areas that she oversees is arbiter, and that is assigning football and basketball varsity games out of our office, Planet HS, Palmetto's Finest, the Wall of Champions, online eligibility. And then we have Allison Myers, who's our administrative assistant. She oversees getting the rule book orders out, and she receives schedules and other forms that are to be submitted to our office. And then we have two new staff members with us, Keith Warren, who is over our technology. Keith also will handle Dragonfly technology issues, the school directory, and then he is in charge of our Zoom meetings, photography, and other computer systems. And then we have a new administrative assistant, Ms. Kayla Kinsey. And with that, that's the introduction of our staff. So I'm now going to turn it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Amy. Welcome all. Want to go through our constitutional changes. As Amy alluded to, we appreciate you being here. We're hoping to keep this to around an hour and 20 minutes at most. So a lot of the information we're going to share with you, some of it is a repeat for a few of you, but there is a lot of new information, and there are some things we have shared down with all of our head coaches in our rules meetings that we wanted to make sure our administrations had as well. The constitutional changes that were approved last year in March at the Legislative Assembly Of course, you see them here. The changes to these articles in the Constitution are highlighted in pink. This is both of these, A and B, are dealing with classification and reclassification, which will be happening again this late this fall. And of course, what was added in was that when we do reclassification, is that including enrollment, there'll be multiple factors to include enrollment, whereas the Constitution used to say based on enrollment. So now it's just added in there that it'll be based on multiple factors. With that, reminder that the Executive Committee met Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and they made the decision that we will again proceed with 5 classes in the reclassification system. Additional constitutional changes, we're dealing with the appellate panel. You see the additions there in pink. Both of these changes are just essentially defining or really just making it clear what the appellate panel's duties and responsibilities are according to state law or proviso. And then one bylaw change dealt with league passes. Essentially doesn't change anything with league passes. It just cleaned up the language in there for the intended use of the passes. Reminder, league passes must be allowed for entry at any league-sponsored athletic events. And of course, obviously in the playoffs as well. But remember, league-sponsored events are any events that you put on that happen in the preseason or in season for your sports during the year. As we move through these slides, if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat there. Amy will answer those questions. If you've got a specific question that pertains to your situation or your school, the best thing to do is going to be to contact us here in the office when we are done. COVID update. This memo went out late yesterday afternoon. Some of you probably got it first thing this morning. If you haven't gotten it yet, Amy's going to talk about that when she goes over the new directory here in a few minutes. But the Executive Committee in their meetings Wednesday addressed some COVID issues. All this is in the memo sent to you as well. I want to make sure we go through it with you. One of the things the committee wants all of our regions to do in schools is to meet to determine the process that you're going to use to determine your playoff qualifiers and rankings if all region games cannot be played. This didn't seem to be a forethought a month or so ago, but now with a number of teams in quarantine or coming out of quarantine, we don't know where this variant's going to go, what the numbers are going to do. So the Executive Committee has asked all regions to make those decisions. Regions must submit to the league office in writing this process. In that memo that was sent out, it was asked of you that if you are using region contests to determine how you're going to proceed with the playoffs, that you get that information to our office prior to playing any region contest. If non-region games are going to play a factor in that, then we need that information here in writing prior to you playing any contest at all. Very important that these decisions be made as soon as possible. Once you start getting wins and somebody starts getting losses, when these conversations start, everybody starts moving all their balls to their corner and nobody wants to play with anybody else because you see how it's going to impact you based on a few games now. Make these decisions now before anything starts and any contest happen. This is not just a football decision. This is all sports in your regions that will determine playoff qualifiers. Additionally, we've asked you to send that to us. We've also asked you to copy your classification president. That way they have it on file because any appeals from the region would start in the classification. And that came out in the memo yesterday. Additionally, schools regions, you have been encouraged by the Executive Committee to make necessary adjustments to your fall sports schedule that would allow opportunities to make up region games at the end of the season. At this point, there is no extension to the regular season has been granted. What we don't want is a situation where you come up and you just don't have any weeks left because you've got nothing but region games left. So if you can make any necessary adjustments, a blanket change was not recommended. Simply put, you've got regions that are going to require at least 7 region contests for everybody to play everybody one time, and some that will require 4. So to make a blanket change would really have to have started probably weeks 1 and 2. So because you know your schedules and you know what your region looks like, These decisions were best made for the regions and the schools around you. Contracts, games canceled due to COVID, there will not be any financial penalties. No financial penalties, and that would include any contracts that you've previously agreed upon. If somebody can't play you in week 2 in football due to COVID, and you had a contractual agreement, that contract will not be enforced. The executive committee instructed the commissioner not to enforce those contracts if it is a COVID reason. Canceled games due to COVID, the executive committee also said these games will be a no contest. They will not be counted as a forfeit. You need to keep that in mind as your region meets. So if school A and school B can't play, you can't say it's a forfeit. It is a no contest. And then just as a reminder, we'll adopt the same practice we did last year, that all games prior to the state finals and the playoffs will not be held up for COVID reasons. So the only games that we would hold up due to a COVID reason would be when we have 2 teams left in the state finals. Any other rounds, we would not hold up the playoffs for COVID reasons. If you have questions about this, first encourage you to read through your memo, and then certainly feel free to contact our office. Activities changes. These were passed in April at the executive committee meeting. We sent the information out to all of our schools with the activity changes within the week after that meeting. But just to make sure everybody's got it, reminder, all varsity teams are allowed 2 scrimmages and 1 jamboree. And then sub-varsity teams are now allowed 1 scrimmage and 1 jamboree. There is no exchanging of those. It is 2 scrimmages and 1 jamboree. There is no scenario where you can get 3 scrimmages and no scenario where you could get 2 jamborees. Competitive cheer, it was removed from competitive cheer, the routine. Basket tosses were removed from the scoring component of the routine. It was also removed the required minimum 20-second section of cheer without music, and the time of the routine was reduced down to 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Your cheer coaches should be well aware of this, and their rule meetings last Thursday and Monday. So they should be very well aware of this. If not, please make them aware. Volleyball, piggybacking off what we learned in COVID. No longer will the 2 teams in volleyball exchange sides after each set. They will be allowed to stay in their same bench area as part of the playing rules moving forward. The only exception to this would be if the official determines there is a clear and distinct advantage gained by staying on one side the entire time. This decision must be made prior to the match starting. And of course, it is the official's decision. What could be a clear and distinct advantage? Well, one side, the basketball goal will go all the way up into the ceiling. The other side, they can't get it to go anywhere. That is an advantage, having that goal down on one side versus the other. There could be a glare off of windows. There could be an open end of the gym where the other end is closed. It could be any reason that the official feels like that one team would have a distinct advantage by staying on one side. Remind your coaches, this is an official's decision. If they've got a question about it, they should bring it to them prior to the match. But if we get to set 4 and it's getting tight, that's not a time to say, hey, they've got an advantage, we need to switch. If that decision wasn't made early, it's not happening. In cross country, there will be a 1-site qualifier for all classifications. The top 8 teams from each race will advance to the state finals with a total of 16 teams in the state championship for cross country. Okay, every school will have an opportunity to attend the qualifier per classification, and there will be essentially 2 races per class at the qualifiers per gender. So much like we did with COVID last year, you will have you will have a 3A qualifier 1 and 3A qualifier 2 that will start at a staggered time at the same location. That way everybody's running from the same place and with the same elements. In track and field, the change to track and field by the executive committee was allowing the number of athletes at the state meet to increase from 8 per event to 16 per event. Of course, this number could be less than 16 if there is a minimum required to participate in the event. If there is a minimum time or distance for the event and the athlete does not meet that and they are number 15, they will not be permitted to participate in the state championship due to not meeting the minimum requirement. You still, as a classification, have the ability to determine how you will do your qualifiers. If your class chooses to do a one-site qualifier for statewide, or if you choose to do an upper and lower, or if you choose to do whatever else your classification comes up with to get those 16 per event to the state finals. Baseball, softball, the regular season was essentially extended 1 week. We're starting the playoffs 1 week later than normal, which is week 44 of the calendar. That is nothing out of the ordinary for our other sports. We started looking at the number of weeks our sports played a little bit last year, and we noticed that baseball and softball were given a 7-week window when most of our other sports were given at least 8. So we made the adjustment. We still finished those two sports prior to Memorial Day in their state finals. And track, the state finals were moved back 1 week to week 46 of the calendar. That's 1 week later than normal. State championship sites for the fall and dates. The dates are here. 11-4 and 11-6 is volleyball. Those matches will be held at Dreer High School. Of course, you see Thursday at 5:30 and 8, and then 11, 2:30, and 6, and the classifications are beside them. So we appreciate Dreer High School's ability and willingness to host this event for the South Carolina High School League. Football this year, football will take on a little bit different look. For the first time in quite some time, all of our games will be held at one location. That location was determined by the executive committee this week at Benedict College. You see the game times and the slots per classification. Those were determined last April by the executive committee. And the thought process was that each class, if we stayed with this plan, each class would play in each day in each time slot once every 5 years. Swim will be held Friday 10-8 and Saturday 10-9. That'll be at the North Charleston Aquatic Center. And Danny Brooks will be getting the information out to you here in the next few weeks as to which classes will be participating on which day. Cross country is 11-11 and 11-12, and Danny is also going to get the information out to you here in the next few weeks regarding which classes are on which day and the times of those events as well. Cross country will be held again at the Sandhills Research Park in Northeast Columbia. And then competitive cheer is scheduled for Saturday, 11:20, with a location to be determined. Open season dates, just as a reminder, we will go back to the, currently plan is to go back to the open seasons that we have done in the past. Here are your dates. The next one you have coming are the winter sports starting September 13th. And just remind your coaches that those are 20 days inside of that window that they can use any way they wish, as much as they wish during those 20 days. Just cannot make those dates mandatory and required, and certainly you cannot do tryouts. We should not see any teams, any schools or teams posting their rosters prior to the first day of the practice, a regular season practice of the year. Okay, violations, with it being one of the areas I carry a lot of workload in terms of investigations and handling violations for closed season and other infractions. I just want to take a moment to have a conversation with you. Oftentimes when a violation comes to our office, whether it be from another school, whether it be from a school themselves reporting themselves, or from a community member, or somebody sends us something or a picture, we start the process with an initial inquiry. If you send it to us and say, hey, we're reporting this, you probably, if there's questions to it, we will follow back up with other questions. But if you get an initial inquiry from us, typically what happens is I pick up the phone and call the principal and say, hey, or the AD, we've been made aware of a potential violation. I'm going to send you some information, and we're going to need some answers back from the school. This does not mean you were guilty. There could be a high chance that you get that call or an inquiry once or twice a month. Sometimes people have gotten it twice in a week on 2 separate issues. Now, this office is not picking on you. We're just trying to cross off what we have been sent to make sure either there is or there is not a violation. I would tell you that majority of the time, the school is in compliance with the rule. The person who is sending it to us doesn't truly understand the rule or how it applies, or they're only giving us a snapshot of what they think is happening. So when you get that initial inquiry, we're asking that you take the moment and answer the questions to it and respond to it. And then based on what you give me back, we will determine if there's a violation. If more questions or follow-up conversations are needed, then we will certainly get those to you. If you know about a potential violation, you need to report it to us. If you don't share the information you have, then nothing's going to be addressed. We can't, we've got 4 people in this office that would be working on these investigations. If necessary, that's 8 eyes. We can't be everywhere in South Carolina. So oftentimes I hear folks say, well, you know, so many places, or this place or this school or this coach, they're constantly breaking the rules. We don't know about it. We can't address it. So if you know about something, get it to us so that we can address it here. All right, closed season. I got some questions for you just to kind of refresh your memory. If you're a returning AD or principal, if you are a new AD or principal, this hopefully will be educational piece for you. But first question is, you have a closed season. The question is, teams can lift weights and condition, provided these activities are not sport specific and all coaches can be present. So during the closed season, you can lift weights and condition athletes, and all your coaches can be there, just provided it's not sport specific activities. The answer to this, of course, is true. You can lift weights and condition virtually year round, with the only exception being the dead week in July, around July 4th. So make sure those activities are not sport specific. Okay, next question is, during a closed season, athletes can use the school facilities at any time, provided there is no coach present. It's a closed season. Our athletes at the school, they can just use our facilities at any time, just as long as we don't have a coach here. This is false. School facilities cannot be used during a closed season by students from your school or students who are potentially eligible at your school. And that would be even if, well, these kids never play this sport, they never have any intention to. If they potentially are eligible to it, it is a violation. The only exception to this is it's on a non-school day and the facilities are open for use by anyone in the public. Sometimes we get questions, well, what does it mean open for the public? That means that Charlie and his 65 best friends, they can all come to your facility on a non-school day at any time during that day and do anything we wish on your facilities, provided we don't damage and do anything to destroy your facilities, obviously. But we can do any activity out there we want all day long, and you can't stop us or tell us to leave. Most of the time when I put it that way to people, they say, well, no, we're not open to the public. So make sure your coaches understand. And if it is open to the public on the non-school days, your coaches need to know they can't be there, even if your athletes are there. During a closed season, you have an assistant softball coach, and you can exchange softball for any other sport, or head coach. They work and own their own indoor hitting facility. Your softball athletes or potentially eligible softball athletes can go to that coach to hit as long as they pay them for the instruction they're receiving. And you can take that out. You can make that basketball. You can make it football. You could make it volleyball, baseball, soccer. You know, your coach runs and does lessons for a living, tennis, golf. Your athletes can go to them provided they pay them. This is a false statement. This is a violation of the closed season rules. Closed season doesn't stipulate whether they pay your coach or whether they go for free. If you have a coach who works at your school, who is working with potentially eligible athletes from your school during a closed season, whether they are paying them a nickel to do it or they're paying them $1,000 to do it. If they're doing that for one-on-one instruction and it's not part of an outside team, then they are potentially, this is a violation of closed season rules. We have had a lot of questions with that in the last few years. People say, well, that's the livelihood of my coach. Well, we're not trying to tell them they can't continue to give lessons. We're just telling them they can't give them with potentially eligible athletes from your school. The violations for the closed season are listed in the handbook on page 10. Highly encourage our administrations to make a copy of page 10 and hand it to every coach on your staff so they all understand if the closed season is violated, These are the penalties. A lot of times we have coaches that come back and say, boy, those penalties are tough. Can we get any leniency? If you know the penalties beforehand, then you have to weigh what I'm about to do. Is it worth all these penalties that are about to come to us? Outside teams, a couple questions on outside teams for you to test your knowledge, and if you don't know it, to inform you. Can school facilities be used by an outside team? This is yes. It says it right in the rules and regulations. School facilities can be used by an outside team. Okay, you got an outside team. They're compliant with the 75% rule when no coach from the school is involved in the team. Okay, the team can wear school uniforms or practice uniforms during outside competition. So an outside team, they meet the 75% number requirement. You got no coach from your school working with them. So really the 75% number doesn't really apply. But because they meet all those standards, they can now wear school uniforms or practice uniforms during this competition. This is a false statement. An outside team, they cannot use any school equipment, and players may not represent the school. If you are giving them school uniforms or school equipment to use, then they are essentially representing the school and is a school-sponsored team. They're no longer an outside team. Last one for you here, an outside team in soccer. They have 8 returning varsity players on the team, and it is coached by a coach from the school. All of that is 100% within the rules. So don't get distracted by the first sentence and think there's a trick in there. Okay, that is all compliant. During the practices, the coach takes his team, works with them, and then also moves in another team who is out there. They're at one big soccer complex or on a field. He's got his team with his 8 returning varsity players. And then he brings over another team to work with them, or he sends his team to another field and brings in another team, and they rotate. And that other team that comes in has 2 returning varsity players from his school. Question is this legal? And the answer is no, it's not. 8 is that limit for soccer. Of course, every sport has a different number limit for the outside team. You make sure you're up to date on the rules and regulations with that. But once they exceed that 8, the coach is essentially tied to that number. So in soccer, he is tied to the 8. That is in practices, that is in games, that is throughout the duration of that outside team. If that coach takes those 8 and then they do a rotating clinic or a rotating station through the club, through the organization, then it becomes a violation because he has exceeded the number of athletes that he can work with on the outside team. Even if it's done one day, you can see what the closed season violations are for one day. Oftentimes, these situations don't just happen once. They happen 2, 3 to 10 times. And this is not just isolated to a soccer or a volleyball. This could be any closed season, out of season team. So make sure your coaches are aware. They are tied to that number. Amy, any questions on the outside teams that are coming in?
No, we did not have any questions that were coming in on that. So, okay, moving on. As you all
Okay,
should
with that,
be-
I will turn it over to Amy Boozer.
Thanks, Charlie. I was jumping in there. With that, as you all should be aware, we do have a new directory. This is a digital version of our directory. You should have been sent information where you would create your school's account, and you would set it up with all of your principals, athletic directors, athletic secretaries, coaches, etc. And with this directory, you are able to make changes throughout the school year. So any changes, additions, or deletions that you make, this digital directory will be updated on the SHLSL website immediately. One of the things with the new directory, and when we get off this meeting, I would like for you to go and check to make sure you have your directory set up correctly. I have been looking at a couple, and I've seen that the athletic director has gone in and set themselves up as the admin. But then when it came to adding your staff, you did not add yourself in that staff list that had the email address. So whether the principal set it up as the admin or the athletic director, it's very important that you also set yourself up where you list all of your school staff with the email address. And the reason why is this new directory is going to be linked to our mass email list that is sent from our office. So when we send emails to principals, athletic directors, athletic secretaries, it will come from this new directory link. And starting August 16th, this will be the only system that we will use to send out emails. Currently, we are using the new directory in addition to last year's email list that we had, but starting August 16th, this will be the only system we're going to use. So very important that you do go check, make sure that your principal's in that directory, you're in that directory, and anyone else, assistant athletic director or athletic secretary. Also make sure that your school's directory is complete. I've looked at some of them and you have half of your coaches listed. Remember, in that directory, we need the head coaches for the sports. We don't need your entire football staff on there. I mean, obviously, if you choose to do that, you can, but we are looking for the head coaches for the sports. And if you need any assistant, or if for some reason you're not getting emails from your office after being in the directory, please notify Keith. All right, as I just stated, we will start August 16th with how we're distributing communication. And every Tuesday, we do distribute the Tues News. This is full of reminders, upcoming dates, and new information. The Tues News, we put as much information that can help you and benefit you in the next week or 2 weeks to come. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. All Tues News can be accessed on our website under the communications tab. Might be good that you share that with your coaches so they can go and see what's in Tues News every Tuesday or Wednesday morning. They could just go and check out what's in there. We are aware as educators, you get many emails daily. We try to limit our information that we send out to just Tues News. We try to make sure we include all the important information, but there are times that we do have to send out other information to be shared with you through emails or memos. Just as yesterday, we sent out the COVID update. That is something that we do have to send in separate emails. So please understand anytime you get separate emails from our office, it is extremely important information, and it's information that needs to be shared down. We can't emphasize that enough. All of our information is sent from the league to principals and athletic directors. We do not send this information directly to coaches. So it's important that as you, as the athletic director or principal, that you are sharing this information with your coaches and in making sure that your coaches are reading this information. And just to highlight rumors and other speculations, and I know last year and going into this year, there's already started some rumor mills about what's going on, what the league is going to do. Just understand that anytime the South Carolina High School League has information to share with our member schools, we will do that as soon as possible. Don't get caught up into the rumors that fly around. A lot of the times it's people just guessing what they think is going to be done. And most of the time it is not accurate. So please just read what is shared by the league office. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to call our office. We'll be glad to assist you with that. All right, moving into transfers. And as I stated earlier in the introduction of staff, I do oversee transfers in our office. And just want to remind you, when you have a transfer student, always consider that transfer student as ineligible. You want to view them as ineligible first until you can go through and make sure they've met the first and second criteria. And then also seeing what transfer rule do they fall under A through N. So always view them as ineligible until you can gather information to determine if that student is going to meet one of the transfer rules. And I'm just going to go through some generic transfers, some of the most common that we see. I will say that we do have situations that are going to be specific to the school and each student. And when those come up, please reach out to me. Let's talk through the transfer, and then we'll figure out if that student's eligible or not. So the first one, a student who did not attend your school or attend your feeder middle school the entire previous school year, but now they live in your attendance zone and attend your school, does not need a transfer form because they now live in your zone. So a student who did not attend your school or did not attend your feeder middle school the entire previous year, they move into your attendance zone. The student does not need a transfer form because they now live in your zone. Okay, this would be false. This student is a transfer and needs transfer paperwork filled out because they did not live in your school, or they did not attend your school last year, or they did not attend your feeder middle school. So you would have to fill out transfer paperwork. All right, a student is doing virtual school through an online private school. This student is eligible to participate where they are zoned to attend. So a student is doing virtual school through an online private school. This student is eligible to participate where they are zoned. This is false. Okay, state law only applies to those who are enrolled in a homeschool association or a charter school that does not offer the sport. So state law allows that. And with homeschool, the homeschool association, there is a waiver, there is an exception to that law that the student does not have to sit out a year to be eligible. That was put in place last year. It was an exception and it will continue into this school year. So a homeschool student, if this is their first year participating, they do not have to wait that year. And that is for this school year only. All right, Chip lives in the Beaufort High attendance zone, but attends a non-member school. After his 10th grade year, Chip decides to leave the non-member school and enroll at Battery Creek. Battery Creek is in the same district as Beaufort. Battery Creek would use which of the following for the transfer? So again, they live in Beaufort attendance zone, they attend a non-member, but they want to attend Battery Creek. So they would use an intra-district transfer, would be the correct choice, because the non-member to member can't be used as he does not live in the Battery Creek zone, and you would not use 2 to make the student eligible. All right, student attended 9th grade at Spartanburg High while living in the Spartanburg attendance zone. She then left Spartanburg and moved with her family to Blythewood High School, which was a bona fide change of address, meaning the entire family moved. Halfway through her 10th grade year, she left Blythewood and went to live with her aunt in Spartanburg. Mom and dad signed over legal guardianship to the aunt. The student enrolled at Spartanburg High School. 3 options for eligibility: guardianship, return to last place of eligibility within 1 year, or not eligible. Guardianship would not be recognized because this is not one of the ways guardianship is recognized. We have specific reasons how the guardianship is recognized. Return to last place of eligibility within 1 year with the bona fide change of address. Her last place of eligibility was Blythewood, so not Spartanburg High School. So this student would not be eligible. A local private school in your area does not offer football. Can students who attend that school and lives in your attendance zone play football at your school? And this is false. Okay, students who attend a private school are not eligible to participate at the member school. We've gotten several questions on this one. There was a bill that was in legislation this past session that talked about private school students and the ability to be able to play at the local member schools, but that did not pass. So again, private school students cannot participate at the member school. Then we have Danny as a 7th grader and lives in the Newberry High attendance zone. He attends Newberry Middle, but wants to participate in athletics at Mid Carolina High School, which again is same district. This is okay, provided that the superintendent approves his eligibility at Mid Carolina High School for 1 year. Okay, and that is correct. That would be true. The superintendent can assign the eligibility, an alternate assignment for a 7th or 8th grade student to a high school in the same district. Now, this has to be done both years. So if you have a student that was alternately assigned for middle school where they participate for athletics, that would have to be done their 7th and their 8th grade year. So just make sure you are aware of that. It would have to be done both years of middle school if they're seeking that. All right, foreign exchange. We will be adding foreign exchange to Planet HS. So just as you do transfers, there will be a button there that you would actually put in your foreign exchange information. Currently, we are still using the foreign exchange form that is located on the website, and this will be used until September 1st or until the foreign exchange form is added to Planet HS, which will be before September 1st. So you can continue to use that foreign exchange form that's listed on the website. But once we do get it added to Planet HS, we will do away with that form and you will be placing foreign exchange in on Planet HS. All right, and just last, some helpful interpretations, and these can be found in our rule book. And I shared with you a transfer student. They should always be checked closely. Many will not be eligible under the transfer rule. So make sure you are checking those students carefully. Never submit a student on a certificate of eligibility without having all necessary paperwork on file. Make sure you have all that paperwork. Don't just take the student's word that they're going to get it to you and you place them on certificate of eligibility and then that paperwork never comes in. So make sure you have it all before placing them on there. Always check the records for the courses and units passed by a student. Certificates of eligibility must be submitted 7 days prior to the first contest in that sport. And Planet HS does give you that information as to when your eligibility must be submitted to not be late. All varsity sports schedules must be filed in the South Carolina High School League office. And some of that is arbiter for specific sports. So for this past fall, football and volleyball were submitted in an arbiter. You didn't have to do an additional form. Sports schedule forms can be found in the athletic director's notebook for you to complete and fill out. And this is just to protect all of you and your coaches. Never allow a student to practice without having a parent's permission form, physical examination form, and insurance coverage. So never allow them to practice without these forms. A player has the same restrictions as a team on the number of games played, etc. So if you have a player that played a JV and played a varsity, please remember that player has the same restrictions as a team on the number of games played. Anyone other than a junior high or middle school players may move up or down. Remember, there are some guidelines. If you have a middle school player that you move up or you move down, there are some specific restrictions regarding that middle school or junior high player. Teachers' children, they have the same restrictions as all other students. So teachers' children have the same restrictions as all other students. And then last, if you have any doubt, check with our office. That is what we're here for. We're here to answer any questions. We're here to assist you with any interpretations of our rules that we can. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to our office. And at this time, I am going to turn it over to Danny Brooks.
Thank you, Amy, and good morning to everyone. All coaches are required to take the courses that are listed there. Of course, they would go to nfhslearn.com to complete those courses. At the conclusion of those courses, there's an opportunity to print a certificate proving that the coaches have satisfied the need of taking those required courses. Remember, every other year, every 2 years, the CPR and AED certification is required. For your non-district head coaches, the fundamentals of coaching course is required. And of course, you see something new, different there. Last year, the COVID-19 course was a requirement. This year, it's listed on our suggested or recommended courses. Also recommended as a new course at NFHS Learn, that's the collapse athlete. My next few slides, I really need your assistance. You know, sportsmanship, one of our pillars of educational athletics, extremely important to us here at the league. You know, what you permit, you promote. We just really need our coaches and need the assistance of one, decreasing profanity and smack talking, especially if they have something negative or derogatory to say to the other school and or officials. And here on our website, you could find our pledges, our sportsmanship pledges for our students, our coaches, the sportsmanship awards that we give at the end of the year. There are some sample sportsmanship announcements that your PA announcer can use throughout their venues. Living Clean Weeks for this year is listed there, with the first coming next month and September 20th through 25th. Living Clean means we want a clean week, no ejections, and you do a cleanup community service project. Well, scrimmages started yesterday for our fall sports, and unfortunately, so did ejections. If an athlete is ejected, the school must submit a report to our office immediately. We need that very quickly. We do act on ejections quickly. We look for the officials' report as well as the school report prior to making decisions. So if there's a hesitation in the school report coming in, it's also a hesitation in getting that result back to you. So make sure that your coaches are reporting to you in a very timely manner. I ask immediately if one of the athletes is ejected. And of course, the minimums for ejections is listed there. The same applies to a coach's ejection. If a coach is ejected, a report must be submitted to our office. Coach's ejections carries a minimum of 2 game suspension and a $300 fine. If it happens to be the final game of the season, of course, there's a $500 fine. One other point of emphasis I want to put on our ejections. If you have video that will make a difference in the decision of an ejection, please send that with the school's report. This is exciting news. I'll tell you, we are very excited here at the Lead to have our first Health and Wellness Summit. You know, it is extremely hard to get medical doctors to give up their time, but they are willing to give up their time to make a difference for our athletes. So we have our first Health and Wellness Summit on August 26th. It is limited space. You were emailed a link this morning to register your athletes. I suggest you get them registered as soon as possible. This will be a tremendous, tremendous summit. It's an opportunity where every athlete's a starter, and we know that it'll make a difference in their lives. Here at the High School League, we offer a leadership summit for both high and middle school, and the National Federation has always had a leadership summit, and this year it's coming up this week, starting this Sunday, with the National Federation Virtual Leadership Summit. Encourage any leader within your school, athletic or non-athletic, to be a part of this leadership summit. The speakers are some of the top speakers in the country. It is a tool that your leaders within your school will be able to use. Register now. You can find that link on our website. And again, this summit starts on a Sunday, so make sure we get responsible students involved. We also offer a Student of the Month or Students of the Month here at the Lead. We recognize them. This is not performance-based. We're looking for those athletes that makes a difference in your community, makes a difference in your school. We're not looking for that athlete that scores the most touchdowns or wins every race, but again, that athlete that just changes the climate of your school. We would like to recognize them as Students of the Month. And our pillars of education, as we contribute to the profile of the SC graduate, our 5 pillars with emphasis on inclusion, equity, and diversity and wellness. And of course, sportsmanship, and you're gonna hear me talk about sportsmanship all year because I really would like to decrease the ejections. We will have a sportsmanship summit this year. And our coaches, athletes, and parents education, health and wellness, which is a tremendous summit we got coming up at the end of this month. Community service and leadership. And I will now turn it back over to Charlie.
Thanks, Danny. Arbiter, if you've got any questions about Arbiter, games not showing up, can't see your information, I need an account, I need to be set up with an account, you need to contact Jan in our office. Jan's handling all things Arbiter in terms of registration or games or any questions you've got, she's handling it. For those of you that do not know, Arbiter is our platform that officials are assigned for your contest. So you probably need to make sure you've got an account. If you are replacing someone or you've got a new administrative assistant who's going to be helping with arbiter, when you email Jan that they need to be set up, just send her an email with who they are replacing. And this is a good point to remind you all, when you send this, don't send the letters of your school, just send the name of your school to us. In other words, we have a ton of CHSs in our system. So if you just say, hey, it's Charlie from CHS, I'm the new AD, that sends us on a goose chase now of where it's just a lot easier if you just type out whether it was Crescent or Chesney or Conway or Chapin or keep going. So help us there. Any changes to games in Arbiter or your game assignment changes or dates or locations, make the officials aware first that the game is being changed or postponed or canceled. And also make the assigner aware of it as well. You can put everybody in one email, but you really need to talk in person to your officials. Don't assume your officials are reading their emails. We have a lot of officials that work in jobs where they don't have access to email until the latter part of the day or when they get off of work. And sometimes that for them is too late. Remember, you are responsible for making them aware if a game is canceled or postponed before they start traveling. Otherwise, you could incur paying them those fees. On that line, Arbiter Game, many of you have moved to the Arbiter Game platform. I would share with you, Arbiter Game platform is a little bit different because it allows you to control some things with your games in terms of canceling and postponing and changing game times that Arbiter did not allow. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Arbiter Game is giving you a platform for, assigning other workers to your event and your buses potentially as well. Please know that when you do it on your end and you haven't notified anybody else and allowed them to do it on their end first, it really creates a mess behind the scenes. Sometimes the officials do not get notified when you do it in Arbiter Game. The assigner doesn't always get notified. A lot of times that game is hidden. We can't pull those officials off that game because it's still showing up. They're working a game. The assigner who puts the officials in is the one who has to make any changes, because that is who controls the officials. So give them the chance to make it. And of course, with varsity football and basketball, that would be Jan in our office. Okay, your rule clinics, we are done with fall rule clinics. We had those obviously at the South Carolina Coaches Association All Sports Clinic in Greenville. We were in person there. And then last Thursday and Monday and Tuesday of this week, we did our Zoom fall sports clinics online. Felt like all those went very well. If you've got a coach who did not attend, there is no opportunity for makeup. There will be a fine to your school, unfortunately, for not attending that rules clinic. However, we do have those rule clinics in the rewind section of our website. Highly encourage you to tell your coaches to go watch that. All those rule meetings that we did on Zoom were recorded, and they are now in our rewind section on our website. They are in a YouTube format, so you can actually fast forward through some stuff if you don't want to share all of it with your parents or players or coaching staffs, but it is all there. The first 10 slide presentation that we do with a lot of the information we have today is also on there. And of course, once we're done with these meetings, there'll be a recorded copy put there as well. But you see the winter sports and the spring sport dates, they are on Planet HS. This year, those will be the virtual rule meetings. Okay, officiating. There's no secrets. We're not getting a large number of folks that are wanting to become officials in our state. Our officials pool is not increasing. It is, in fact, doing the opposite. It is, in some cases, slowly decreasing, and in other cases, it is rapidly decreasing. Please keep in mind that, at the sub-varsity level, that's where our new officials are getting their experience, just like your young athletes. As I put to all the coaches that I talk to, look, if you had a kid who was fully 100% capable of doing it at the varsity level as a youngster, they are going to be on the varsity team if their age allows. It's the same thing for our officials. If we've got a first, second, or third year official who is 100% ready to be doing varsity games, they're going to be doing varsity games too. But a lot of times this is where they're going to get their experience. They're going to get their training. The way they're treated, it's a big reason. Excuse me. It's a big reason why they are leaving the profession. The way they are treated by coaches, the way they're treated by players, but especially the way they're being treated by spectators. We cannot, as member schools, we're asking you to say, look, we cannot allow this to happen. We can't allow you to bully and harass and just belittle and degrade game officials. It's just, you can do it to our own kids, you can do it to me, but don't do it to the officials, because if we don't have officials, folks, we're not going to have contests. And we are slowly trending in a direction that in some sports in a few years, we're going to be short, and we're not going to be all offer the contest in the same way we've always done it on the same consistent night. So we need your help. However, please understand, we instruct our officials that respect is a two-way street, that they do need to show it to get it. They should get it first. And then if they become disrespectful, or they don't show respect, or they become argumentative on things, they have to understand they're opening the door for that as well. So, please help us with this. We really need your help. I will share with all of you here, as I have shared with our football coaches. There is a very high chance that if we stay as scheduled and have the games that are scheduled right now, there's a very high chance we'll be calling some of you and asking you to move varsity football games and give you a choice. Do you want to move it to Thursday or Saturday? Because Friday night, we can't make it happen. We don't have enough officials to go around. We're not going to isolate that to one classification. We're not going to isolate that to, one region. If, of course, it would be in a geographic region, we wouldn't isolate it just to one region of play. And the thought process we've had would be that we'll basically just go to that geographic region, and we'll just start, if we have to start week 0 or week 1, we'll just start selecting the schools to give us the opportunity to do it. Tell them we need you to move it. And then we'll run through all the schools in that geographic region at least one time before we round back up to you again. Now, also have shared that, look, that may be a case where you play back-to-back weeks on a Thursday. The first one you're at home, the second one you're away. We're not looking at your game itself. We're looking at your home game. So I know putting it on a Thursday from a Friday is a challenge, but at the same time, the other option could be you don't play. So keep that in mind as we move forward, and we need your help. We need your help getting new people there, and we need your help when we get them there, keeping them in it, especially with how they're treated. Now, please don't think when I say treat them well, we're saying roll out a buffet for them when the game's over. We're just treat them as humans and respect the job they do. Pretend it's an administrator coming into your building from somewhere else for that day and is going to help you. You're going to give them respect. So please help us with that. One last thing on officiating. Last year, we had a number of issues start popping up where we have coaches who like to take film clips and post things on social media to show everyone what call was missed by the officials. Folks, keep in mind, you can't see everything. And it's just like being in the cafeteria at lunch. You can't see everything. Your angle is what you've got. Your eyes are what you have. And officiating, they've got one chance to see it. And a lot of times it's less than 1 second to see it. And they've got an entirely different angle. They don't have the chance to slow it down, rewind it, zoom in, enlarge it 1,000% to be able to say, oh, look, that toe is 2 inches inside the line versus on the line. What a horrible call. We don't show them the other 75 plays that they may have gotten right. So please reiterate to your coaches that this is not helping anyone. This is not changing the call. It's not making the outcome of the game any different. It's not making that official better that way. And in fact, it's got people who see that and say, yeah, nobody is saying, oh, boy, this is great. Let me be the next official that they do this to. I want to go do this. So just remind your coaches, there's a way to handle it. We've gone through how to handle it with all of our coaches, and you see it up there. They can send the clips to us, or they can send them to their local directors, and we'll investigate, and we will use it to make them better or to educate them at the very least. Social media teams, social media is increasing. Obviously, there's probably a new app out there that your students are already familiar with that in 3 months we'll all become familiar with in some capacity. Just know that these social media teams, whether it be a school-sponsored social media account or a student who is running it, if they've got your school name or your program name attached to it, and they start getting into unsportsmanlike activity in that account, addressing the league, addressing other schools, calling out players, calling out officiating, we're gonna come to you with that, and we're gonna look at you, because if it's connected to your school, we're going to hold you accountable for it. So you make sure they understand, or you understand too, that if you've got somebody doing that, especially a student, that they understand what the expectations are. And the other piece we want to bring to your attention is these social media groups, these persons or people that are coming to contests. They're showing up, they're saying they're media, they're getting on the sidelines, they're getting on the baselines, they're getting in dugouts, and they are film clipping things. And all they are doing is they're just collecting all the video they can collect. And then they're going back and they're splicing it up and they're posting stuff onto the internet. In many, many cases, they are there for a great purpose, and their intentions are phenomenal. In most cases, they don't have formal media training. They don't know formal media etiquette. They don't have any oversight. They don't have a boss. Nobody's going to fire them. Most of these folks are, while they are trying to do good, they are trying to make a name for themselves as well. So just be mindful of when a camera is around your team, whether it be in the locker room or on the bus or on the sidelines. You put a camera in a kid's face, they're going to talk until that camera turns off. You know that. So whatever these people put out there, it could be a bad look for you and your coaches. And remind your coaches, if you allow reporters, even if they are legit media, into the locker rooms to video post or pregame comments to their team, they're not required to filter them out. So make sure they understand that this is a risk they're taking when they do this. And a quick story, don't want to get into too much details, but we had a couple of times last year where post game, some social media persons, I'll just call them that, were they kind of filtered their way into a team locker room, unbeknownst to the head coach, unbeknownst to any other coaches, or beknownst to them. Nobody stopped them and said, "Hey, who are you?" Everybody just either assumed they were supposed to be there or didn't see them. Put a camera in a couple kids' face, a message got out. Next thing you know, that person is posting something on social media about those kids, that the kids are basically talking about their next game opponent that was not very kind. So please be mindful of who's in and around your team, and remind your coaches. With that, I will now turn it over to Miss Cindy Drakeford. And as I shared yesterday with the groups, we have covered a lot of information from the league standpoint. What Cindy is about to share with you is there are a lot of changes to it. So please make sure you pay attention to these rule book orders and some of the technology we're going to be using now that we have not used in the past for some things, because it will impact you if you don't know what to do here in the next week or two. Thank you.
Good morning, folks. We are almost at the finish line. I just have a few changes in the finance department that I wanted to share with everybody, and a few reminders from last year. The first major change is the rule book order process. We are trying to go as paperless as we can in this office now. Rule book orders now are completely digital. They are through Shopify. If you click on the link that's below, it takes you directly to our Shopify catalog page. You can order all of your rule books from there. Great thing about this feature is it automatically creates an invoice for you so that you can take to your finance department. You also have the option to pay with a credit card directly on the site. You can choose to have your books delivered, and it will calculate shipping for you, or you can schedule a pickup. The ladies in our office that are handling all the book orders are doing a great job getting those orders ready and out within a couple days. So if you order your books, you want to pick them up, just give them a call at the front desk and let them know when you want to pick them up, and they'll let you know when they're ready. And again, this is completely digital. Nobody has to print anything. It's awesome. We've got a great new technology person here that's been setting up some stuff for us. I think you'll appreciate the new way of ordering rule books. Give us 1 second.
Up top. Right there.
Yeah, you can skip to the next page. Dragonfly, we have received a ton of phone calls recently about Dragonfly. I know everybody's excited to get their high school league passes. So I just want to issue some reminders. By now, everyone should have received 3 emails from me. First email was for administrators to clean up your Dragonfly accounts, and I cannot stress this enough. As the administrator of the accounts, you need to go in Dragonfly and remove coaches from last year. You don't want coaches from last year having access to all of your information. And and there were detailed instructions on how to do that in the emails that I sent. The other thing that you want to make sure is that you check the credentials of the staff that you have there. Make sure that only your principal, athletic director, and or athletic secretary, if you have them managing your account, are listed as administrators. In this case, administrator doesn't mean the administrator of your school. It's just the administrator of the Dragonfly account. Everybody else in that account should be listed as a coach. Even if they're volunteers, just list them as a coach. Because you don't want them having access to confidential information. And some of you guys use Dragonfly for other purposes. It may have student eligibility information in there. So just make sure that everybody else is listed as a coach. They don't have credentials to be able to change your Dragonfly account, approve passes, delete people, etc. The other reminder is that on that screen, that yellow circle there means that card is waiting for you to approve. I can tell you yesterday, there were several hundred passes that are waiting for the school to approve them. We can't approve them until you do. So check those cards, make sure they have a photo on them, make sure it's a person that's approved to get a card through your school. Click the box beside their name and either click approve or reject if something's wrong or they're not supposed to be there. But we will not approve these cards until you do. So just go back into your cards and events and make sure that you have approved everybody that deserves a pass. Really quickly, I just want to say that make sure you are adding folks where they would be billed. You are going to receive a bill for these passes at the end of the year. So if you have allowed passes more than the allotted number for your school, in April, you're going to receive an invoice from me for those extra passes. So if there is a person that works at the district office but coaches for you, you want them to select your school as the place for their pass. Otherwise, the district office is going to receive a bill, and they're not going to be happy about it if they're working for you. So just make sure that everybody in your list is supposed to be in your list, and that if you get billed for them, that's where they're supposed to be. Contact Keith for technical issues. I'm the finance director. I can answer any questions you have about invoices or fines or whatever the case is. But if you have technical issues, please contact Keith or Jan in our office. Financial forms. All of our forms are on the website. They have all been updated to reflect this year's ticket prices. Go to our website, print the updated ticket prices list. I stress, print that list, hang it on a bulletin board so that when playoff comes or when playoff season comes, you know exactly what the ticket prices are. They have all changed, or most of them have changed. Our gate fees have changed. The championship gate fees have changed. Last year, we had quite a few schools who didn't realize our fees were different from their fees, what they normally charge, and I would have to, either have them redo the financial forms or change the financial forms to reflect what they were charging. So pay attention to what the ticket prices are. Make sure that you send us a copy of the financial forms, even if there is no money due to us. We do not collect money in the early playoff rounds. We only collect money now for semifinals in basketball and the finals in other sports. So the early rounds of playoffs, that money goes to you and the visiting schools. It does not come to the high school league, but we do want a copy of those financial forms. So make sure that you send that to us, send it to the visiting school. I don't want to have to keep chasing down schools 2 months after an event to get a copy of your financial form. Again, those have all been updated. If you click on the forms tab on our website, you should see the list of forms there. If you ever have a problem with a form or something's missing or whatever, feel free to give me a call or an email. Finally, sanction forms. We're implementing a new process for sanctioning. I think you all will really like this if you like technology. Again, we're trying to go paperless. So beginning at the end of this year, by December, we are doing away with the paper applications. Right now, you can go to our website, you'll see a link to the digital form, and you'll see the 2 paper applications. But effective December 31, that paper application will be gone. So I'd like for everybody to go ahead and start using the digital form now, get used to it so that, if you have any trouble, you can call me. That digital form is really neat because what it allows you to do is go in, create a login, type in your event information, enter all of your schools or participating schools or invited schools. If you need to upload brackets, it allows you to upload the brackets for those events that need it. And then you can send that to your principal. So you don't even have to print it and go get your principal to sign it. It will send an email directly to your principal. They can do a digital signature, send it directly to me, and then I can approve it. If it goes to a board or state, I can send it directly to the board or state. So it's a completely paperless process. It's a really neat feature. I encourage everybody to start using that. Just a reminder, I have already gotten a lot of late sanction applications this year. I know COVID had us in a different place last year. We weren't sure what we were going to be able to pull off. There is a $25 late fee for any applications that come into our office less than 30 days time. So make sure that you give me 30 days to look over your event, make sure that I have all of the paperwork, get it to the board or state if we need to. Otherwise, you're going to be getting a late fee for something that, you know, is not necessary. Make sure you fill out the correct form. If you've invited North Carolina, any school from North Carolina or Georgia, send the board or state form. That's the only one you have to fill out, but you have to fill out the board or state form because I have to get it to them for their approval. Even if they're private schools, sometimes they approve for private schools. So just make sure you fill out that board or state form. If you've invited anywhere else in the country, make sure you go to NFHS to fill out their form. If you've only invited South Carolina middle schools, South Carolina high schools and middle schools, then you just get that form and send that one to me. Again, give me 30 days, make sure you get them in on time, make sure that they are complete. Don't be in such a rush to send them that you don't complete them, that I don't get all of the information, because those applications get pushed to the side. Those that come in complete, that come in with the brackets, come in with the signatures, those are the ones that I look at first. I will always invoice you, so you don't have to be so worried about sending a check. I think my time is up. There's an attendance poll there for you guys to make sure you complete. I'm giving it back to Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Actually, I'll be jumping in now. And again, the attendance
Thanks,
poll.
Cindy. I think Amy was going to do. Amy, are you doing max prep?
Yes,
You want me to
I
go ahead
am.
with it?
Yeah, I'll do it. Doesn't look like our attendance poll is working.
Yeah, it's working.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. All right, just checking. It's not showing up as it typically does on my screen that it's working. So anyway. All right, so just to finish up, Max Preps is a corporate partner with the high school league. They basically provide one location where standings, game results, statistical leaderboards, state records, media publications, and more can all be found. The platform provides schools with various desktop, tablet, and mobile options to keep their information accurate. So what we're asking is that you have your coaches enter their rosters and schedules at the start of each season and have them report their scores immediately following or as soon as they can after each game into the Max Preps team app, or they can simply log on to maxpreps.com to input that information. So rosters and schedules, and then putting their game results in at the conclusion of games. And then if you need access to Max Preps, please contact Ryan Casey at maxpreps.com with your school and sport if you do not have access to your coach admin. So Max Preps does have a help and support system that coaches can use. So you can just simply contact them. And we do have a link on our website for Max Preps. So again, that is one of our corporate partners that we do hope that you use this year. All right, this concludes our mandatory league information meeting today. So we do thank you for attending. Again, if you have questions or anything specific that you need to reach out to us, please make sure to contact us at the office. We'll be more than glad to assist you in any way we can. And we just want to check one last time before we sign off. Kayla, is there anyone you need to check to make sure they were in attendance today?
If I could just interject here, principals, ADs, please answer the question that's on the screen. We're showing about 80%, so there are some that have not answered that required attendance poll. There we go.
Amy, I'm not sure Kayla's mic's working. Let me just double
Okay.
check with her to make sure we are.
We're at
We don't have any
80, we're at
questions.
88 now. They're kind of getting it.
And we just want to make sure we have everyone in attendance because it is a $100 fine. So we don't
Okay,
want
hang on
anyone-
1 second. I'm getting it. Okay. Alexis King, Benjamin Carter, Brandon Eisman, Carlos Cave, Corey Wright, Eric Nash, Gary Fulmer, Holness Samuels, Joseph Middlebrooks, Kimberly Joseph, Link Lyles, Miriam Brown, Michael Glover, Michael Pettit, Paul Rooney, Robert Washington, Rodney Barr, Thomas Frederickson, Tyrone Blackburn. If any of y'all are on, please let me know.
Hey, Amy, this is Robert Muster from Powdersville. I got a quick question. When we have our classification meetings with the high school league, are they going to be Zoom as well, or are they going back to in person?
That is going to be for the classification to decide. I know as at last I heard they were going to be in person, but I know some things are changing. I'm not sure if there's been an update on that yet or not, Robert. You need to check with your classification president.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, this concludes our meeting for today. So thank you all. We wish you the best of luck getting the school year started. And again, if we can be any assistance to you this year, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you all for attending today's meeting.